Fit check. We got the Estes Flask Ale from Astora Brewing Company shirt. That is too small for Bird, too big for me. I'm still wearing Christmas socks in March because I like them. And I can't find a fucking hairbrush. I would plug in my nice microphone, but my laptop can't be trusted right now to not randomly restart itself. So we're just gonna have a little bit of a rugged audio. This lighting is fucking... Video will be in response to a few comments that I found intriguing and had a lot to say about. One in particular that I'll get to that basically asks why I am so focused on community over entertainment, and realizing that I, trying to answer that question, if I tried to reduce it to anything simple, it would not be like an honest answer. So I had to really think about it and kind of get into my whole perception on entertainment and on my own career. But before I respond to that comment, I want to respond to this one from Cole5809. It's actually two comments in a row. The first one says, I think the reaction, and this is in response to my video, Nobody is Nobody, where I was saying that it was strange to me how certain smaller anime YouTubers were messaging me to ask why I was bothering to respond to somebody they considered a nobody. And this person says, I think that reaction is based on how others don't really know the person in question. To be honest, even I don't fully, mostly due to not following that event or chapter in your life. There are a lot of videos right now, so it makes sense many are busy like me. Let me say, first of all, there's not anything extra to understand. I don't know who this fucking person is either, other than the comments they left on the videos, which I read in the videos. So, I know as much about Roy Thomas as most of you do. Granted, I learned more after that video because they came into the Discord server, revealed their pronouns are they, them, revealed that they, appreciated the video, but ultimately were just hoping to get an apology from me about saying that they had deleted a comment because they hadn't done that. It just wasn't showing for me for some reason. I don't know why that is the case, but, and generally through their comments, I got the sense that they were a lot more serious than I had been taking them. That they meant what they were saying a lot more than I thought they did, because I just thought that person was kind of trolling, but I think they might actually be crazy. Nonetheless, there wasn't a lot to know about them, is what I'm trying to say. So it's definitely something I don't understand, though I'm not questioning your choice to talk about them or anything, as it's your life and words, which means sometimes I won't understand everything or have context for everything discussed. I think fans don't mean to diminish him, but rather ask from a perspective like, why are you talking about a new or currently irrelevant person/character in your channel story suddenly? While fans, nobodies like me from Florida, are a constant part of your videos or storyline and your recent output of videos, thus having relevance/presence. That was an interesting part, because it made me, first of all, want to read the comment so I could acknowledge you yourself, who, in a way, you're asking for acknowledgement by saying this. Why am I, a fan, not acknowledged? And the answer is, you might leave comments semi-regularly, but I will say that I don't know who Cole5809 is. I see a glass of milk in that name. I will know who you are after this because of your next comment, where you say a lot about yourself and who you are. So now I know who you are. But until this second comment, I didn't know who you are. So, even if you are a fan or a part of my audience, maybe you've made a request sometime. Maybe you've left a comment that says something like, I would like you to watch this or something, I guess what I'm asking is, did you ever give me a topic for a video? Because a lot of the time, the people who are fans and who like my stuff, they just kind of comment agreement, or the discussion continues in the comments, but there's no need for it to become a whole other video. I talked to a lot of my fans in my Discord server, and that was a big part of this video as well, was kind of explaining the people who aren't leaving negative comments and having that kind of contentious relationship with me. If they do develop a positive relationship, then that can go as far as we just become friends, I don't regard my audience as a separate thing from... All my friends are people who watch my videos, all of them. Every single friend I've had in my adult life has been somebody I met through the videos. So just as likely you as anybody else who watches them could become my friend, just depending on, do you want that? You know, like, not everybody wants to be friends with everybody whose content they watch, including me. I watch most, in fact, I would say the overwhelming majority of creators that I am a fan of, I do not want to be friends with, and I appreciate that we can have a parasocial relationship at a distance instead of me having to, you know, participate in their life in a deeper way to ever get anything out of them. You know what I mean? So I guess what I'm saying is, like, as a fan, if you wanted to be more involved in my story, you just got to get more involved. Lots of people do. It doesn't always translate into the videos because a lot of those people aren't trying to be famous. You know, like, they're not content creators, or even if they are, they're not content creators who want all their personal business put out there. You know, I don't talk about people unless they explicitly, like, tell me. I talked about this in a recent video that I used to just talk about all my real life friends and my family and stuff, and it got me in a lot of trouble and lost me a lot of friends. Like, a lot of people don't want to talk to me because they see me as somebody who's going to share their business, you know, or who's going to create drama. Like, when I create drama with other YouTubers, and then, like, YouTubers who I'm friends with, they get asked about that. Some of them don't want that. You know, some of them just don't want a lifestyle where they're ever getting asked about drama I'm causing. I'm never going to stop causing drama. I love drama. I love it. Sincerely love it. It's my favorite thing. I could cause drama all day long, and it will only make me happier. The only reason I don't do that is a lot of people are babies about it, and I'm not trying to lose friends, or only have to be friends with people who are like weird drama people, you know? I don't consider myself a weird drama person. I'm more reactive, you know? I don't go out trying to cause drama. I look for it, and then I go, ooh, here's a drama, let me jump in on that, you know? But I also think that all of it is drama. Like, literally, if it's entertainment media, it is drama. Like, that is what drama means, you know? It's always drawing from real life drama and experiences. It's just like, if you don't literally know the people who the story is about, then you can abstractly decide that it's about your people instead of the people who, you know, it's actually about. But I just have a tendency more so to actually talk about who I'm talking about instead of making it abstracted through some other layer, which, when you do that, those people know it's about them. You know, if I write a song where I am, you know, talking shit about, like, a bunch of traits of a person that several people in my life are exactly like that, they know it's about them. Who the fuck else am I? I didn't make up these concepts out of the ether, you know? I'm talking about you. I kind of find creativity innately pretentious. You are literally pretending. You're pretending you're not talking about what you're talking about. That's art. Art is literally pretentious. So I try to make what in my mind is the least pretentious art possible. A lot of people's definition of pretentious is, like, use big words and make any attempt to seem intelligent. So in that sense, I might make the most pretentious art imaginable, but in my mind, it's the least pretentious art it could be. I'm literally not pretending. I'm just telling you what's going on. All right, let me read the second half of Cole's comment. Honestly, watching your videos is really interesting, mostly just due to how I want to see how your life turns out, how your mental health turns out, and just in general, wanting the best for you. It's interesting that phrase "turns out," because when is the end point for that? Like, where does it, like, when the river empties into the ocean, the water still continues, you know? Like, it doesn't stop. It might not be a river anymore, but it's the same water. So, like, is there a moment that I pass from river to ocean in your mind? You know, like, that I become the water that's over. This is a weird metaphor I'm trying to use, but I hope it makes some kind of sense. I don't understand what you mean by turns out. How does one turn out? I hope you don't feel worried over me or non-commenters, though. I'm a practicing therapist with rather small problems in life, like wanting to lose some weight and creating good YouTube videos like yours and other creators I follow. I don't really know where to begin with the idea and concept with your videos as therapy, especially as someone who's spending 8 hours a day at a mental health agency seeing adults and children doing therapy, from addiction to oppositional defiant disorders to 5-year-olds from 70-year-olds. Also, along with being in college and internships at agencies for the last 4-ish years, my life has heavily revolved around therapy. I honestly would love to see your thoughts about therapy more to have a baseline jumping off point. At the end of the day, though, your channel is you, fully and assuredly. So I'll start with this comment takes me back in a way, because I've been on the internet forever, like longer than, if you're watching this, there's a very slim chance that you've been on the internet longer than I have. I've been here since the late 90s. I'm only 33, so I was a child, and a lot of you were children when you got online too, but it's a different internet. You were not on the internet I come from. I came from an internet that did not have other children like me on it for the most part. It was almost exclusively like college students, older people, and there was a definitive reason you were on the internet. Always. It was not taken for granted that a person goes on the internet. Most people had never heard of it. Most people didn't know what it does. They were not interested in it. Literally until MySpace. Like, MySpace was the first time that regular kids my age started interfacing with the internet at all. And that was when I was in early high school. So that then got replaced by Facebook like a couple of years later. And then Facebook was when my parents started using the internet. My parents were the ones who were buying the computers that I was using the internet on. They just never understood it. Like, they thought they needed to have a computer to keep up with the Joneses, They did not understand what it does, how to use it. And I had other friends my age whose parents were into, like, I knew kids whose dads were into computers, but, probably to use for pornography purposes, but like the kids didn't know how to use the computers. And this is before you even had like the ability to go online and play free games. Like, that wasn't a thing yet in the late 90s. I would go on to Pokemon.com and do like crossword puzzles and like sketch the Pokemon out of the Pokédex, or I'd go to Ask Jeeves and ask it for like a picture of a Beast Wars character, and then I would print that out. And a little thumbnail I would print out on like a piece of paper, so I would have a picture of a Beast Wars character that I can't find. Where else am I gonna get it, So that was the internet in the 90s to me. And in 2001, when I was really big into Yu-Gi-Oh, then I got onto a Yu-Gi-Oh forum. And Yu-Gi-Oh forum was very active, and that was the first time that I perceived the idea that there were other people that I could interact with through the internet. And granted, I was a very frightful kid. So like, my mom had told me, don't talk to anybody on the internet. Don't ever give out your name. Don't ever give out your real appearance. And so until I was like 18, I really didn't. I did not give out my name. I did not give out my appearance. Nobody knew who I was other than a brat, like someone who's obviously too young to be in the parts of the internet that I was on, because I was going to all these forums, which were discussions between, again, mostly older people, mostly like college students and stuff like that. And the reason that I was there with all those people is that I just simply did not fit in. I did not fit in any context that I'd been in offline. So when I was talking to these people on the internet, I quickly realized like everybody who's here is here because of some kind of special interest that they can't find other people who are like that. And I guess what I'm trying to say, because I'm realizing I'm telling a lot of story to make the point I'm trying to make, is that everyone who is online is insane. Everybody who spends all their time on the internet has a mental health disorder. There's something, insane is the wrong word, but you know what I'm trying to say. They're all weirdos. Everybody on the internet is an outcast, does not fit in to the normal society, because if they did, they would be perfectly fulfilled by normal society, And you got to consider how outcasted you have to really be to like need to get your social communication from online, because even if you're like an anime fan, a lot of the times you got anime club, you know, you got friends who watch it with you, you got something besides having to go online to talk about this stuff. And you know, what I've realized over time is that the problem wasn't the stuff I was into, it's the way that I communicate. You know, like, that's the reason I didn't fit in, was not because nobody else has a GameCube. It's because of I'm offended that they don't have a GameCube and that they have a PlayStation, you know? That's the problem. And that's the kind of thing that I started to be able to identify through the internet, through all the people who are like me being grouped together and just butting heads and fighting about it all the time, you know? Where it wasn't like we got along on the internet, it was just we knew what one another are talking about. And that's such a huge step above nothing, that we were happier to fight than we were to have nothing. So the early internet was just a bunch of dumbass idiots who don't fit into society fighting each other about how to like the thing that we all like correctly. At some point in the midst of all this, I discovered something called psychology. You know, my dad was in a period of like abject mania in my teens. But he started learning about like philosophy mostly to help himself through that. So I started reading about philosophy through my dad's stuff. But like, to me, philosophy and psychology became very linked, because I saw philosophy as a way to understand psychology, basically, like an in to psychology. And it was really stuff like Evangelion and reading Boogie Pop and others that got me the most interested in psychology, because aside from the fact that they both like speak on psychological concepts directly, if you go to Wikipedia, which existed by like 2003, and I started using it around then, like it would tell you that these things were inspired by psychology, that like Ava is the way it is because Anno was reading psychological texts. That, you know, if Boogie Pop, literally one of the main characters, who is obviously supposed to be the author stand-in character, Kirima Seiichi, is, I mean, I say main characters, he's dead before the start of the series, but his books are all these like pop psychology books published in universe. He's basically like a Malcolm Gladwell of psychology for Japan in the context of the universe. Maybe Gladwell's not the best comparison, because I don't know if that's going to make it read as like quack or as like somewhat interesting. So ever since then, I've been studying psychology as a part of studying media, because I've always seen it like media is the result of your psychology. It's literally the result of how you think. Like, you have some unique way of viewing the world, and that translates into your art. You have unique tastes and interests and influences. So just because of the fact that like the stuff that influenced me, I immediately investigated what influenced it. And that's always going to take you back to some kind of psychological connection. Like, you know, I can make things like a list of what are the most dissociative anime, because I understand dissociative disorders well enough, and I understand anime well enough, that I can see the strong ties between these two things, you know? And like, there's like a degree to which all anime is dissociative. Like, it just by nature, there is a disconnect between the humanity of the thing and the representation of the humanity of the thing. You know, like there's always a dissociative element to anime. But it's a matter of extremes, where it's like, if you're into like shonen anime, you probably have a dissociative disorder, but it's not that bad. If you're into Serial Experiments Lane, you probably have a really bad dissociative disorder, you know? Like, it's almost impossible to even parse the show if you don't relate to that part of it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, in the effort of understanding art, I learned psychology, but I also studied art for the sake of learning psychology in the first place. So the two things are incredibly intertwined to me. And particularly art about psychology has always been the category I follow. Like if something is tagged psychological, I will check it out. You know, like if it sucks, I'll be really mad. But if it's good, I've definitely seen, you know, if it's marked psychological and it's good, you know, people like it, I've almost certainly at least heard of it, read some of it, watched all of it, you know, like I'm always after the psychological works. And then I watch a lot of videos about psychology, you know, and less so theory and more so applied. Like I have a really hard time operating in theoreticals. Like if people posit theoreticals to me, it's hard for me to care. I'm just like, yeah, but what does that, like, what would that do though, you know? So I like watching people, like when Dr. K first came out, and you know, I don't love everything about what he does necessarily, but I think he makes a lot of great points a lot of great points when he therapizes with people. So it's always been interesting to watch, like, you know, people get publicly therapized. And I think that when it comes to therapy, it's almost less important to understand all of the theory than it is to understand that person. And because you're never going to know all the theory. Like, you should really just be selective with who your clientele is. Like, don't try to therapize everybody. You know, I could not help a normie with their problems. Their problems are, I don't understand their problems. I would want them to change their whole life, you know? Like, you come to me when you're like, nothing's working, you know? Like, I'm the person that you come to when nothing works. And you're like, what the fuck do I do? How do I whole cloth invent life for myself? That's what I'm here to help people do. And like, this sounds incredibly lofty, but when you actually reach the interior part of my community, that is what's going on. It's people literally rebuilding their entire senses of selves. You know, I've got people in my Discord who are in various stages of abject rebirth. I've got people who just started cracking their shell. You know, I've got people who are farther into transition than I am, but were motivated by me to start, so we're still comparing notes. You know, I've got all kinds of resources surrounding me. I've got tremendous amounts of information into the categories I care about, not just from me, but from my community. Because I'm surrounding myself with like, hey, if you know lots of info about trans stuff, I need you over here. If you're making videos about trans stuff, I'm resharing that to my audience because they need this information, you know? So I consider what I do, and I'm going to make a few videos about this. Maybe I'll make this the first part of the Way of the Waypointer series, because I've been meaning to make a series called Way of the Waypointer. Because what I consider what I do to be is pointing the way. And that requires me to be able to identify the way and also who needs to go that way. You know, like I could see people going one way and they're going that way, and I'm like, they look like they're doing fine. You know, none of them needs to be pointed in another direction. But if you're lost, I'm here to help you find a way. And again, if you're lost and you end up with me, like you don't just end up anywhere, you know, like you don't just randomly find yourself on my channel. That's not how it works. It's not how anything works. You're here because you are you and I am me, and there's something we have to work through together. It's possible that you will only be here for a very short time. It's possible that you will be here for the rest of your fucking life. But you're here because we have to work together. But how directly is that, you know? It could just be that you watch my videos and there's no more than that, and that's fine. That is still a working relationship. In fact, it's a pretty well working relationship, actually. If there's nothing more than just watching the videos, you're probably pretty comfortable with that level. You know, a lot of people who want to be closer, there's always, you know, it's love. All the heartbreak is in there. So, I feel like this is a video by itself. This is already like 30 minutes long. So instead of me responding to the comment I mentioned at the beginning of the video, that's just going to become its own video now. So this is the response to Cole5809's question. This will be Way of the Waypointer In what way am I therapy? I don't know what I'll call it. I might even release them out of order because the other one is also an interesting topic. But we'll get there, all right? We'll get there. Tune in. Stay tuned. Subscribe. Tell your friends. Tell your wife. Tell your dog. They might all be the same person.